All right, guys, today's short's going to be on the rollover top pattern. Typically, we look for this pattern on a 1-minute chart. And the main thing to look for on this pattern is you want to see a pretty strong move up out of the gate. So typically, you want to see a strong move outside of 930. And then after that strong move up, you want to start to see a little bit of a consolidation to a possibly a little bit of a chop on the high. You want to see it pulling back a little bit, kind of putting in a small resistance level. So like right here, we see this push up after the open. We have a little bit of a sell off kind of initially on this high here, pulling back to that short-term EMA. So we have the first thing we look for, big move up. Second thing we look for, that first little resistance. The next thing you want to look for is a very small break of that first resistance level. So we have the initial high, which is this high right here. Then we have just barely a break of that high. I think it broke by a few ticks. And it doesn't matter if it breaks by a point or two. You just want to see kind of a small break of that first high. And after that small break, it should be coming back almost immediately. We call this a weak high. So when you break a prior level and then you start to pull back almost immediately, we would refer to that as a weak high. Okay, so we see a strong move up, we see that weak high, and then the last thing you look for is that lower high. So this would complete the rollover top. Very, very similar to a head and shoulders. So if you guys are familiar with the head and shoulders pattern, it almost looks like a head and shoulders every single time. So when you have that lower high get established, you want to look for that lower high around where that weak high is. So wherever that weak high is, just kind of draw like a box or a zone where the cluster of those candles are. And we want to see a lower high in that zone. So once that lower high gets established, that's where that trade can take place. You put your stop loss above the weak high. You want it to be above where that highest point is. And typically on this, you want to target VWAP. So almost always VWAP will be below you. And then if you want a farther out target, you can look for where that initial impulse was created. So that would be the point of origin, which is down here. And then if you zoom out, there's an even farther point of origin down here. So you would target VWAP, you would target the point of origin, maybe a further out point of origin, and your stop loss would be above that highest point.